Y'all, you don't even know what's coming in this episode. Normally, we record afternoon, night. Today, we're recording in the morning. And this
early morning.
This is different. Well, not really early, but it's different
Early
right
for
now.
some of us.
Sounds like this is
What's
3 hours
early?
after
What's
my
early
bedtime.
for you guys?
Do I dare say?
Not with Talon. Talon's like, I slept in 6 a.m.
Literally, I bet though. Was it?
No,
was it
really
that way?
though.
Welcome to This is Kingdom. This is Grace.
This is Talon.
This is TJ.
This is Hollis.
And this week, we'll be talking about the power of Jesus Christ in our lives every day by Elder Joaquin E. Costa.
Ooh, Elder Costa is so good. Can I tell a little tender story about Elder Costa, actually? I was able to interpret talks into Thai this last general conference, and I was assigned Elder Costa's talk. And I love him. And I feel like when you get to interpret someone's talk, you just have this special bond with him, you know?
I feel that same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the times I've done that, I feel the same way.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, yeah.
Hey, thanks for relating to
Oh.
me.
How does that even work? Is it a little freestyle up there?
No, that'd be crazy. They give you the talks
Yeah.
actually
Yeah,
a
that'd be
couple of days
crazy.
beforehand. A couple of days beforehand translated, so you're just reading as they're speaking.
It's already translated. You
It's
don't
already
do.
translated. But what's crazy about it is
You could say anything you want.
I could say anything I want, and all the people in town be like, "Whoa!" But what's crazy, they have everyone's words per minute, like how fast they speak up there, and some people speak really, really fast. But Russell Nelson speaks at 80 words per minute. Just a little
I was wondering that.
FYI for all of you.
And now we know.
But in this talk, Elder Costa really emphasizes how we can increase the power of Christ in our everyday lives. And he drops actually just so many words of wisdom here. But one I really want to focus on is one where he talks about transactional relationships and our relationship with God. He says right here that one of the mistakes we often make is to think that keeping covenants or the promises we make to God is somehow a transaction we make with him. I obey, he protects me from anything bad. I pay my tithing, I never lose my job, or the fire will not burn down my house. But when things don't go as we expected, we cry unto the Lord, carest thou not that I perish? And I feel like we can relate a lot to that. It's like, oh, if I do this, then God's going to give this to me. But then he drops this, which I love. He says, our covenants are not merely transactional, they are transformational. And I love that. I feel like what really helped me understand this line in this talk is actually a teaching in Buddhism that I really like. And I thought of it while I was interpreting this talk.
Did you say in Buddhism?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
And I think it's so cool. It's when he's talking, or this teaching is about the phrase, I like you and I love you. And what actually happens in this phrase or in this story is Buddha's asked, hey, what is the difference between I like you and I love you? And he compares it to a flower. And I was like, oh, I love flowers. One day I want to have a greenhouse in my backyard. But anyways, he says, when you like a flower, you simply pluck it. But when you love a flower, you will water it and nurture it every day. And I love that in the terms of our relationship with Christ. It's like, what am I plucking out of my relationship with Christ that I like? Are there things that I only like and that are convenient for me? It's like, oh, I'm going to pluck that and that and that because it's easy for me. It's convenient for me. I'm going to get that because if I do this, I know God will give me this. Or am I nurturing my relationship with Christ where I am with him through the good and the bad? I'm not simply plucking things I like, but because I love him, these things I know I'm going to do because it will bless my life because I know God's got my back. And I think there comes a time in all of our lives where we have to ask ourselves and reflect, am I liking the relationship I have with Christ and picking and choosing what I want? Or am I actually loving him and knowing that no matter what happens in my life, I know that I'm doing this because I trust him? And then it's not that transactional relationship that Elder Costa is talking about, but it's a transformational relationship where I'm doing these things because I want to strengthen my roots with Christ.
I like that. Strengthening my roots with Christ. That's tight.
Yeah, so I just think it's really interesting of how we can always do that. And we find that in society a lot today as well. It's like, oh, what am I plucking out of my relationship? I feel like it's a lot with instant gratification as well. It's like, oh, especially in a relationship with someone. I feel like we see this in society all the time. We see it in our dopamine hits. We see it with pornography. We're doing these things or seeing these things that provide a lot of instant gratification, when in reality, we need the more of the connection, more of the commitment in our relationships with people around us and with God.
That's so interesting to me because I think a lot of the times that might be one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Now I'm just processing that whole entire thing because I actually think it's so cool because there's something to be said about the fact that it really, like, if you pick a flower, like, that actually is happy. Like, I love having flowers in my house. Like, that's my favorite thing. Anytime I go to Trader Joe's, I'm gonna buy flowers. Like, I love it. And like, it's not to be said that good things don't come out like of like liking your relationship with Jesus. Does that make sense? Like, that's really tempting. That's like a really good thing. And that, like, it's gonna last on your table for like a week and you're gonna look at it and you're gonna love it and you're gonna be so happy. But then what? And I think it's so interesting to think about like a relationship with Jesus and be like, yes, like, what am I taking that I'm just like, yeah, like, I'm going to church to meet people and I like to like pray because I need this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say a few prayers because I'm really desperate for this right now. And yeah, like, great. Like, that's so awesome that you're going to church. That's so great that you're praying. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's not even me being sarcastic. I'm like, yeah, like, awesome. But what if you're missing out on an entire garden? You know? And what if you're missing out on the chance to like walk in somewhere and be like, oh, this is actually going to last a while. This is going to be something that's meaningful. That even like when a flower dies, you're like reassured that it's going to come back in a year, you know? And I think that's something powerful to realize with Jesus. That it's like, oh no, wait a second. Like, actually, like, this can be long lasting. That's the purpose of covenants, is actually that it can be long lasting. It can be meaningful for longer, which is cool, I think.
Yeah, I love that God is his goal for us is transformation and not just transaction, because I just thought of two different ideas. I'm gonna stay with this one. Like, if we have, like, when you think of like a boss, like you think of like a boss in your job, especially like a high school job, it's like the boss wants you to have faith and works, but his end goal is like to make more money, you know what I mean? Or to grow. And the high schooler has a pretty good time in that job anyway, and you learn things and it's awesome. But it's so cool to, when we separate God from that transactional boss to like our Father who like wants us to transform. And we realize like he wants faith and works, but not just so that he could get things done or that he could have more people in heaven or so that his kingdom can get bigger, but that he's trying to like transform us. You know what I mean? Like, he's trying to change our heart. And that's what happens when we have the flower and we love it and we let it grow. We're not just plucking it and deciding, oh, okay, I've waited this much. What can I pluck? But we're just growing the flower and loving it and just seeing it grow into everything that it can become.
What does that look like? Like, I love this analogy, but what does that actually look like in your relationship with God for it not to be transactional, but for it to be a loving relationship?
Well, I'm really intrigued right now with this idea that Hollis brought up because most of the time Jesus is the gardener, and that's true, but this is like kind of thrilling to me, not because I'm trying to become Jesus, but because there's something beautiful about us being the gardener. Like, it's just like changing. I've never thought about my relationship with Jesus. That's what I'm trying to say right now. I've never thought about my relationship
You've
like
never
Jesus.
thought about your relationship
Like
with Jesus?
this.
Oh, wow.
Like this. Like
Wow.
this.
I was like, that's the most untrue statement Grace has ever said.
So true. But it's really interesting to me to think about this and be like, okay, if I just buy something at the store, like a flower from Trader Joe's to put on my desk, I'm only going to think about that flower when I walk in my house and see it. I'm not gonna, like, when I'm not gonna be like driving on the freeway and be like, oh, I wonder how my flowers are doing, because I'm gonna forget about them. But if I am a gardener, I actually am going to spend a lot of time thinking about my garden. I'm going to think about what I can do for it more. I'm going to put in work for my garden. I'm going to check on it probably multiple times a day. I'm going to be looking up, I'm going to research it. I'm going to figure this out. And it's interesting because I actually think that's the change for me with my relationship with Jesus. And I actually think that's what has transformed my relationship with Jesus anyways, is I think a lot of the times it was the type of thing that I would think about Jesus the same way I would if I just like bought a flower and put it on my table. That like, yeah, if I show up at church, I'm going to be thinking about Jesus. If I see Jesus answer a prayer, I'm going to be thinking about Jesus. Like, that's great. Like, I'm super stoked. I loved when Jesus shows up in my story. And the difference is when you're the gardener, actually you're forming your life around Jesus. Then all of a sudden, when you're not like at church, you're still thinking about what you can do to be close to him. You're actually like putting in work to know about him. You're doing the research that it takes to be like, no, I actually want to figure this out. I'm going to think about this when I drive because I want to take care of this relationship. That's so different, you know? And actually, someone that just buys flowers isn't transformed by looking at these flowers, but someone that's a gardener actually walks away at the end of every single season different because they put in work, you know?
Can I build on this in something kind of like practical for me? Like if I was a gardener, I would need to have a schedule. I would need to have plans. I would need to have specific habits to help me remember to be
Cool.
a gardener because I don't always feel like I just know my personality. I wouldn't always feel like being a gardener. And I don't think I always feel like making time for my scriptures or listening to Christian music or, going to the temple or these things. I need to plan them in. And so I think if we're kind of the how-to talent for me is like, if I'm going to focus on loving this flower and building and growing my relationship with Christ, like I need to have specific triggers and specific habits and specific plans into my schedule so that I don't miss out. Because I think once you get immersed in it enough, then you start to remember, oh, yeah, this is how I feel when I do this. But until you make it kind of not, I don't want to say like strict, but until you like really, plan those habits in and execute, I feel like that will get you some momentum in growing that flower.
So interesting. Something that really hit me reading this talk, and both of you have been talking about it. Like it's easy to forget, and we have to be intentional about remembering. I feel like we always hear we need to remember him, and the scriptures say it a million times, like remember him, remember him, remember him. And for some reason, I think I used to think he wanted us to remember him so he'd feel good. Like it's nice to be remembered.
That's what we do.
We want to be remembered because it feels good. But what this talk made me realize is remembering him isn't so he feels good. Remembering him is to inspire us. Like the more you remember stories about him and things that he's done and things that he said, that's going to inspire the way that you live. It's going to affect your daily habits, your daily actions. It's going to affect how you handle certain situations. And yeah, I'm sure like he likes to be remembered, but I don't think that's actually his goal. I think what he wants us to know is the more you remember me in your stress, in your conflict, just in your daily life, you will be inspired and then you will be transformed.
And with remembering him, I feel like as we know that Christ is the gardener of our lives, but Christ wants us to become like him. I love how Christ mirrors his life, how we want to live our lives as well. Like he wants us to become the gardeners, back to what Grace was saying. And when we can become those gardeners, it's changing and upping our game from liking him to loving him. And liking is not a bad thing, like we talked about. But when we're transformed, we have this deep love for him. I feel like sometimes liking something can be easy and convenient, but loving something, like TJ said, priorities, there's a schedule, it's consistent. Liking something sometimes keeps us the same. But when we love something, that's when we grow, and that's when we're transformed. That's what Elder Costa is talking about. So next time you see maybe a flower somewhere, I think it's great to acknowledge its beauty. It's great to pick at it. But when we want to level up our relationship with Christ, that's when we start loving him, and that's when we can sense our relationship with him being transformed.
This is Hollis' favorite song. Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands had made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Hey.
Grow that flower.
See you next week.